Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to cut through the noise, get straight to what's really shaping our world. And today, we're diving into one of the most volatile situations right now. The escalating Houthi attacks in the Red Sea. Just this past week, it's been harrowing. A major escalation. 2 commercial ships, the Magic Seas and the Eternity Sea, sunk just days apart. And the human cost, it's just heartbreaking. 4 lives lost on the Eternity Sea, and these deeply disturbing reports about crew members being kidnapped by the Houthis.
It really brings it home. These aren't just blips on a radar screen. They're real tragedies with immediate consequences.
Exactly. These aren't abstract geopolitical games.
And it's intense. What's really striking, I think, is this isn't just a temporary flare-up. These incidents, they signal a significant renewed campaign right in those vital global shipping lanes.
A calculated move, it seems.
Definitely demands our attention.
Okay, so that's our mission today. We want to give you a real shortcut to being fully informed on this. We're going to unpack the immediate fallout from these attacks. Really dig into the Houthi movement, their background, their motivations, which are complex.
Yeah, very complex.
We'll look at how the international community is responding or trying to respond, and then broaden out to the implications for global trade, regional stability. Basically, why this matters to you.
By the end, you should have a much clearer picture of what's really happening in this critical maritime choke point.
All right, let's start with the events themselves. To really get the gravity here, we need to look at what happened just days ago. The Magic Seas, Sunday, July 7th. This was a Liberian-flagged, Greek-owned bulk carrier. It's sailing southwest of Al Houthi in Yemen, and suddenly it's under this coordinated assault. Small boats, RPGs, unmanned bomb drones.
Yeah, the whole terrifying package.
They set the ship ablaze. The crew had to abandon ship. Can you imagine the terror on board?
It's a nightmare scenario. And the speed of it all. Very concerning. The Magic Seas, reports say it sank the very next day, Monday the 8th.
So quick.
Thankfully, that crew, all members were rescued. But the significance, huge. This was the first really serious attack on commercial shipping since that U.S. Houthi ceasefire back in early May.
Right, that little brief pause.
It was a clear signal. The Houthis were back, and perhaps with evolving tactics.
And then just 2 days later, it gets even worse. The Eternity Sea. Also Liberian-flagged, Greek-operated.
Yeah.
Attacks started Monday, July 8th, but they continued for days.
This wasn't just a single hit and run.
No, this was sustained. Multiple RPGs from small boats, an unmanned boat packed with explosives, and then, incredibly, 6 crews and ballistic missiles fired at it.
A multi-pronged, determined assault, and the outcome was devastating. The Eternity Sea finally sank Wednesday morning, July 9th, and the human cost, out of 25 people on board, 4 were killed, tragically.
It's awful.
10 were rescued. 6 on Wednesday, then 4 more overnight that included 3 Filipino crew and 1 Greek security guy. But here's where it gets really disturbing. 6 crew members are now believed to be held by the Houthis. Somewhere, undisclosed.
Held.
Yeah. The U.S. mission to Yemen is using the word kidnapping, calling for their immediate release. The Houthis, well, they paint a different picture. They claim they rescued some crew, gave them medical care, took them to a safe location.
So completely conflicting narratives.
Starkly different. It really highlights the information war alongside the physical one.
4 dead, 6 potentially captive. It's easy to get lost in the strategy talk, but we really have to pause and remember the human toll. Ordinary people just doing their jobs.
Absolutely. It underscores the immediate stakes.
And the ripple effect? It was immediate, undeniable. 2 sinkings in 1 week. That has intensified fears of a renewed shipping crisis, as one report put it.
You can see it in the numbers already.
Right, the economic effects are hitting. Daily vessel passages through the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, that critical choke point connecting the Red Sea to the Gulf of Aden.
And ultimately the Suez Canal.
Exactly. They dropped significantly, from 43 ships on July 1st down to just 30 by July 8th.
That's a huge drop. It means ships are diverting, taking that much longer, much more expensive route around Africa, the Cape of Good Hope.
And you see that impact, pretty directly. Oil prices jumped, highest level since late June. It reflects those increased shipping costs, the supply chain uncertainty.
When a critical artery like the Red Sea gets choked, the global economy and, by extension, you feel the squeeze.
Okay, so these attacks frame the severity. The obvious next question is, who exactly are the Houthis, this group causing so much disruption?
Right. Formally, they call themselves Ansar Allah, partisans of God. They're primarily a Zaidi Shia revivalist movement, political and insurgent. started in northern Yemen back in 2004.
Zaidi Shia, that's a specific branch within Shia Islam, mainly in Yemen, right?
Exactly. It's distinct. And it forms their ideological core. They've really used the chaos of Yemen's long civil war to grab power. They control the capital, Sana'a, a lot of the northwest, including, crucially, a big chunk of the Red Sea coastline.
So they effectively run a government there.
A de facto government, yes. Makes them a very powerful non-state actor.
And their core beliefs, pretty explicit, openly anti-American, anti-Zionist.
Very much so. They position themselves as a key part of this Iranian-led axis of resistance. That's a regional network against Israel, the U.S., the West. They stand alongside groups like Hamas, Hezbollah, understanding that connection is vital.
Absolutely crucial.
So connecting that to their stated motives for these recent attacks, they say it's in support of the oppressed Palestinian people. They've vowed to keep attacking until, quote, aggression against Gaza stops and the siege is lifted.
And they claim to target ships with Israeli links.
That's their claim. Israeli-owned, flagged, operated, or ships heading to Israeli ports. They pointed to the Eternity Sea, saying it was supposedly headed for Eilat.
But, and this seems key, many ships they've attacked don't seem to have any obvious direct link to Israel.
Exactly. That's where it gets murky. The Magic Seas, for instance. No clear direct link. But the Houthis justified it by saying its Greek owner had other ships that had previously docked in Israel.
So a very broad, maybe even opportunistic definition of Israeli link.
It seems that way. It lets them cast a much wider net, disrupt more shipping. It definitely raises questions about their true aims beyond just the stated ones about Gaza.
What might those broader aims be?
Well, analysts see these attacks as part of a bigger strategy, an attempt to challenge a regional strategic architecture reshaped by U.S. and Israeli campaigns against Iran and its axis of resistance. That's a quote from one source.
So pushback against U.S. and Israeli influence.
Essentially, yes. Sending a strong message, especially maybe to leaders like former President Trump and Israeli PM Netanyahu, that Iran's network, the axis of resistance, is still a potent force. It hasn't been neutralized. It's a demonstration of continued relevance, continued disruptive power.
And the timing often seems well pointed. The Magic Seas attack happening right before that Trump-Netanyahu meeting.
Right. It strongly suggests an intent to disrupt diplomacy, put pressure on key players, and, a renewed Houthi campaign like this could also serve Tehran's interests in, say, the ongoing nuclear talks. Siphon their opposition, signal Iran's leverage through its partners.
Which brings us directly to Iran's role. How significant is it?
It's undeniably significant. U.S. officials are quite clear. Iran provides a range of material and advisory support, resupplying, advising, providing targeting intel.
Targeting info is crucial.
Absolutely. There are even reports suggesting Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps personnel are inside Yemen, working side by side with the Houthis.
Wow.
But, and this is really, it's not just about Iran. The Houthis themselves have developed significant indigenous capacity. They've learned, adapted, built their own capability.
So they're not just puppets.
No. Their ability to pose these risks is far more complex than simple dependence on Iran. The key takeaway is they're evolving. A sophisticated hybrid actor, they can act independently, aggressively. It makes traditional deterrence much harder.
And just for the full picture, sources also mention other controversial Houthi actions we should probably note.
Yes, it's important context. Things like reportedly blocking water supplies to civilians in Taiz, documented use of child soldiers, hindering humanitarian aid to Sudan.
And even causing a financial crisis for Egypt because of these Red Sea disruptions.
Right. These highlight the broader human and economic fallout beyond just the direct attacks on ships.
Okay, so we had this group, the Houthis, with complex motives, growing capabilities, Iranian backing. How has the world responded to this escalating crisis in such a vital waterway?
Well, internationally, there's been widespread condemnation and efforts to coordinate some kind of defense. The UN Security Council passed Resolution 2722, condemning the attacks, affirming states' rights to self-defense there.
And the EU.
The EU launched Operation Spies, its own maritime security mission. They're involved in rescues, trying to protect shipping.
Militarily, the US and UK have been active. Since last October, the Houthis have attacked commercial ships dozens of times, posed risks to naval vessels many other times.
It's been relentless.
So the U.S. and UK, with support from others, Canada, Australia, Bahrain, the Netherlands, they started joint strikes on Houthi targets inside Yemen back in January 2024.
Yeah, there were several waves. Jan 11th, 22nd, February 3rd, 24th.
And the U.S. leads Operation Prosperity Guardian. That's a coalition, 24 nations, patrolling the Red Sea, trying to deter attacks. coordinated out of Bahrain, Navy sent headquarters.
Mm-hmm. Plus, the Biden administration took other steps, redesignated the Houthis as specially designated global terrorists, SDGTs, back in February, sanctioned key officials.
And Congress is involved, too.
Yeah, the House passed a bill, H.R. 6046, pushing for a full Foreign Terrorist Organization, FTO designation. So there's definitely concern across branches of government.
But there was an attempt to de-escalate, right? That ceasefire in May.
Yes, the May 2025 U.S. Houthi ceasefire agreement, codenamed Operation Rough Rider. It actually ended a 7-week U.S. air campaign. Under that deal, the Houthis agreed to stop attacking Red Sea shipping.
Except
for vessels linked to Israel. That was the crucial carve-out.
And that brings us right back to the Magic Seas and Eternity Sea.
Precisely. These recent attacks seem to violate at least the spirit, if not the letter, of that May agreement. They weren't obviously Israeli-linked in the direct way, perhaps implied.
So it signals they're resuming attacks beyond just that narrow definition, a wider scope again.
Seems so. And predictably, this breakdown led straight back to retaliation. After the Magic Seas attack, Israel hit back, struck Houthi targets in Yemen on Sunday, July 7th.
Where did they hit?
Key ports under Houthi control, Hodeidah, Ras Issa, As-Saluf, also a power plant, Ras Kanatib, and even that ship the Houthis hijacked earlier, the Galaxy Leader.
And the cycle just keeps spinning. The Houthis responded to those Israeli strikes.
Oh, by launching ballistic missiles at Israel. One reportedly targeted Ben Gurion Airport, the main international airport near Tel Aviv. Thankfully, it was intercepted.
Targeting a major civilian airport. That really highlights the danger here. Miscalculation, widening conflict.
Absolutely. The geopolitical risks are huge. Clear potential for a broader regional war, dragging in the U.S. and its allies more deeply.
And what about Yemen itself?
There's a very real risk of reigniting Yemen's own brutal civil war, which the U.S. has been trying hard to wind down diplomatically. These attacks just complicate everything. Peace efforts, stopping Iranian weapons, fighting terrorists, getting aid in, preventing that wider war.
So the big question now, is this surge just a one-off message from the Houthis? Or is it the start of something bigger, a new campaign that could, as one analysis put it, derail President Trump's effort to pursue potentially transformative regional diplomacy?
That's the key uncertainty, and you see it reflected in Washington. Some lawmakers want more pressure, that full FTO designation. Others question the legal basis for strikes, the overall strategy's effectiveness. It shows how complex charting a path forward really is.
So let's wrap this up. As we've explored, the Red Sea isn't just a line on a map. It's a vital global trade artery, and right now it's an incredibly volatile flashpoint. The Houthis, driven by their ideology, backed by Iran, they continue to pose this significant complex threat. They're challenging regional stability, but also hitting global economics, affecting everything from shipping costs to potentially the price you pay for gas.
Ultimately, these attacks really show the Houthis' bold strategic game, using regional conflict to reassert themselves, to show they're a disruptive force to be reckoned with, challenging the old power dynamics in the Middle East.
So maybe the provocative thought to leave you with is this. As these attacks disrupt global norms, shipping, sovereignty, what does this crisis tell us about how global power is shifting? And maybe more importantly, how effective are traditional tools like deterrence against these kinds of non-state groups who have state backing?
Yeah, and what does that mean for the future? For global trade routes, for security strategies, for the role of groups like the Houthis on the world stage in the years ahead? Lots to think about.